Welcome to the Explainer. Look, if you've been scrolling through the headlines lately, you already know artificial intelligence is advancing at a blistering pace. But today, we're not just looking at cool tech demos. We're diving into the cold, hard reality of what actually happens when machines become smarter than us at practically everything. We're drawing directly from the pioneers at the very front line of this technology to understand exactly what superintelligence means for your job security, the growing wealth gap, and honestly, the entire fabric of our society. To really wrap our heads around what's coming, we've got to look back at history. Think about the Industrial Revolution. Before that, physical muscle was a huge economic driver. Then, suddenly, a tractor could dig a ditch way better and faster than any human ever could, making pure physical strength practically obsolete in the market. Well, today, we are standing at a shockingly similar threshold, but this time, it's the brain that's being replaced. We're talking about mundane intellectual labor. The everyday organizing, processing, and synthesizing of information is about to become as economically valuable as human muscle power was after the engine was invented. Now, we aren't talking about replacing deep human creativity or complex emotional intelligence quite yet, but those routine mental tasks that make up millions of daily desk jobs, they are squarely in the crosshairs. So here is our roadmap for today. 1. A new industrial revolution. 2. The end of intellectual labor. 3. Widening the wealth gap. And 4. The UBI dilemma. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, a new industrial revolution, and the timeline of AI advancement. While it's obviously tough to predict the future perfectly, the experts are estimating that true superintelligence, meaning machines that are genuinely better than us at almost everything, could arrive in just 10 to 20 years. And even 50 years is considered a highly conservative outlier. Why is it moving so insanely fast? Because digital intelligence has a massive, fundamental advantage over our biological brains when it comes to learning. Think about it. If you and I want to share a complex idea, we're basically bottlenecked, talking at about 10 bits of information a second. It's incredibly slow. But digital AI models, they can share trillions of bits instantly. They can spin up clones of themselves, learn entirely different things all across the internet simultaneously, and then instantly merge all that collective knowledge. Because of that massive built-in advantage, superintelligence is no longer just a sci-fi movie plot. It's an incoming reality within our actual working lifetimes. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hold on, haven't we heard this before? When ATMs were invented, bank tellers didn't all get fired, they just got different, more interesting jobs. And that's totally true, but experts are warning us that this time is fundamentally different. A machine that can do all mundane intellectual labor leaves virtually no room for new human roles to sprout up. If an AI can learn, synthesize, and execute faster than we could ever even hope to, what exactly are we supposed to pivot to? You would have to be incredibly skilled, operating at the absolute peak of human capability to justify doing a job that a super intelligent agent couldn't just do perfectly itself for a tiny fraction of the cost. Let's move on to Section 2, the end of intellectual labor and doing the very real math on job losses. Take a look at this single, mind-blowing metric. In a real-world example from our source material, a worker handling health service complaints became 5 times faster simply by using an early-stage AI chatbot. That's a 5x increase. And to be clear, this isn't some theoretical projection for the year 2035. This is happening right now, today. One single person is suddenly doing the work of 5, which overnight alters the entire economics of their departments. So how does that actually play out? Well, a task that used to take 25 solid minutes of reading, thinking, and drafting was slashed down to just a 5-minute process involving 3 super simple steps. First, the human just scans the incoming complaint. Second, the chatbot instantly drafts a highly nuanced, perfectly professional reply. And third, the human just gives it a quick glance and asks the AI to tweak it if needed. That is it, the actual mental heavy lifting, matching the tone, solving the problem, drafting the text, it's all completely outsourced to the machine. Here is the crucial takeaway from all this. Unless a company has literally infinite demand, making a worker 5 times more efficient just means the company needs 5 times fewer employees to get the exact same job done. Sure, in something like healthcare, a hospital might just treat way more patients because people always need more care. But most corporate jobs absolutely do not work like that. If your corporate accounting team suddenly becomes 5 times faster, the company doesn't magically need 5 times more accounting done. They just need far, far fewer accountants. The demand for the work stays flat, the supply of productivity goes through the roof, and that leads inevitably to massive workforce reductions. And this brings us to an absolutely fascinating shift in the modern workforce. Right now, comfortable knowledge work is actually highly vulnerable, while jobs requiring complex physical manipulation are actually a super safe bet, at least until humanoid robots really catch up. Think about a paralegal whose whole day is spent parsing documents and writing summaries. That is right in the crosshairs of current AI. On the flip side, navigating our unpredictable physical world, like reaching under a cramped sink, using leverage, identifying a weird leak, that is still incredibly difficult for machines to do. So ironically, if you're advising a kid on a career today, telling them to become a plumber might actually be a much safer bet for the next couple of decades than telling them to get a desk job doing mundane intellectual labor. All right, heading into section 3, widening the wealth gap and the economic fallout of all this. So AI is going to drive a massive spike in global productivity. But who actually gets to keep the money? Market mechanics tell us that wealth won't be shared equally. It's going to heavily concentrate at the top. In a perfect utopian world, sure, a massive leap in productivity makes everyone richer. But in reality, the massive cost savings from firing all those replaced workers is going to flow straight to the tech giants supplying the AI and the corporate executives utilizing it to downsize. They are going to see surging wealth. Meanwhile, the displaced everyday workers who relied on those steady paychecks are looking at a steep decline in their standard of living. We are looking at a complete decoupling of productivity from wage growth. And we need to impartially point out that this is not just internet doom scrolling. Major global financial institutions, like the International Monetary Fund, are officially sounding the alarm. When the IMF starts calling for urgent policies to prevent massive labor displacement, you know the threat is deeply, deeply structural. This is a sobering acknowledgement from the absolute highest levels of global finance that our current trajectory is heavily favoring capital over labor. And without some serious intervention, the economic shockwaves are going to be completely unprecedented. Which leads directly to a pretty severe warning from the source material. Historically speaking, when a society generates massive productivity gains but completely fails to share that wealth fairly, things get incredibly ugly. If you look at the data on societies with massive gaping divides between the ultra-rich and the poor, they just aren't pleasant places for anyone to live. You start seeing heavily guarded, walled communities for the ultra-wealthy and deep, entrenched poverty or mass incarceration for everyone else. If AI concentrates wealth to the extreme degree that experts are predicting, we risk a total collapse of our basic societal harmony. Let's move to our final section, Section 4, the UBI dilemma. This is all about policy and human dignity. When people talk about fixing this, universal basic income, or UBI, is almost always the go-to safety net. It's generally viewed as a really necessary starting point to quite literally keep people from starving when millions of jobs vanish. The premise makes total sense on paper. If AI makes everything hyper-efficient and we just don't need human labor to produce basic goods anymore, the government could just heavily tax those wildly profitable AI companies and distribute that cash directly to the public every single month. It basically ensures physical survival in a post-labor economy. But here is the massive catch. Relying entirely on cash payouts solves the economic math problem, sure, but it completely ignores a much deeper psychological one. We can easily figure out how to keep people fed and housed with a government check. What we haven't figured out is what people are actually going to do with their lives. The really profound concern here is that for the vast majority of us, our dignity and our very purpose are completely intertwined with our jobs. Think about the last time you met someone new at a party. What's the very first question you ask? So what do? Our daily sense of achievement, our structured routines, that feeling that we are actually contributing to the world, it's all anchored in our careers. If the government just hands everyone a check to essentially just sit around while super smart machines run the entire planet, the resulting damage to our collective self-worth could be utterly catastrophic. So that brings us to this final, incredibly provocative question. When machines do all the thinking and all the working and the government just pays our bills, what will it actually mean to be human? We are absolutely hurtling toward a future of unprecedented technological ease. But as the pioneers of this tech warn us, a life of total ease does not automatically equal a life of fulfillment. If we literally aren't needed to build or calculate or manage anything ever again, where are we going to channel our drive? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I am going to leave you to ponder that exact question.